Tonight on the Northwestern News Report, buildings vandalized. We have the details on what the university called an anti-Semitic act on South Campus.
Plus, transportation turmoil, how a potential $700 million budget cut might affect Evanstonians' daily lives.
And Spirit on Stage. We bring you the electric energy from Fusion Dance Company's annual spring show.
All that and more tonight on the Northwestern News Report.
It's your news right now.
Good evening and welcome to the Northwestern News Report. I'm Allison Miller.
And I'm Victoria Ryan. Parts of campus were vandalized early yesterday morning in what President Schill and the university have deemed a, quote, anti-Semitic and hate-filled act. The vandalism took place during the commencement of the Jewish holiday of Passover. On the scene to tell us more is NNN's Lance Wilhelm. Lance, what do you have for us?
Yeah, Victoria, I'm outside of Kresge Hall where much of that vandalism took place around 4 a.m. yesterday morning. That's according to a university report. We do have some images of the vandalism, though NNN has been unable to independently verify the source of the images. As you can see, Death to Israel was painted across the signage that normally reads Kresge Hall, but there were also some other messages, notably Intifada, or what was supposed to say Intifada was misspelled, was painted on the ground. And according to Merriam-Webster Dictionary, Intifada is an Arabic word meaning rebellion or uprising. It has specifically been used to refer to armed uprisings of Palestinians against Israel in the West Bank and the Gaza Strip. The phrase "from the river to the sea" was also painted on the doors of Kresge, referring to the land between the Jordan River to the Mediterranean Sea, which contains Israel, the West Bank, and the Gaza Strip. You also see red triangles painted throughout, which have been used as a symbol of resistance at pro-Palestinian protests across the country, and have also been used by Hamas to designate military targets. Now, I talked to some Jewish students around campus about how this vandalism made them feel. Here's what one had to say.
I think this was an act of anti-Semitism, and I find it extremely difficult, nearly impossible, to think of any anti-Israel act that is not anti-Semitism. I think it was clear that death to Israel, Israel being home to half of the Jewish population in the world, is a clear statement of hate against Jews.
Though the investigation is still ongoing tonight, President Schill in his email yesterday said that those involved will face full disciplinary action and will be immediately suspended. Victoria?
Thanks, Lance. We will continue to monitor the situation as it develops.
We've learned more in recent days about how Northwestern is grappling with the Trump administration freezing $790 million in federal funding to the university. NNN's Mila Branson is in the studio with us now to tell us more about the current impact. Mila, what are the main areas affected by the freeze?
Thanks, Allison. Northwestern University still says it has not gotten any official notification from the federal government about a large-scale funding freeze. However, the university has received more than 100 stop work orders for projects funded by the federal government. The projects mainly include research conducted in Feinberg, McCormick, and Weinberg. There's no way to know just how much these cuts will affect research progress as a whole, but for context, Northwestern's operating budget for fiscal year 2024 was $3.3 billion, which means the frozen funds would amount to almost a quarter of that number.
Has Northwestern taken any direct action following the freeze?
Yeah, Allison. Northwestern University President Michael Schill met with U.S. Secretary of Education Linda McMahon in Washington, D.C. on Friday following the funding freeze. In a statement to NNN, an NU spokesperson said, quote, "The university was eager to share the progress Northwestern has made on many areas over the past year." They also confirmed that the meeting had been scheduled for some time before the freeze. This comes after the university has taken efforts to combat anti-Semitism, releasing a report in March that described an 88% decrease in reports of discrimination or harassment against Jewish students on campus between 2023 and 2024. Other elite universities are facing similar challenges from the Trump administration. Yesterday, Harvard became the first U.S. university to reject the administration's demands and was met with a $2.2 billion federal funding freeze in response. Trump also threatened on social media to go beyond withholding federal funds and target Harvard's tax-exempt status. As of now, we don't know the full outcome of the meeting between Schill and McMahon, but we will continue to follow the changes in funding as they develop.
Mila, thanks for explaining these immediate impacts. And NNN's Zoe Singer dug deeper on Trump administration statements that the funding freeze was a direct result of investigations into anti-Semitism on campus. She spoke to Jewish students to hear their thoughts on the funding cuts.
Trump promised to combat anti-Semitism, but some Jewish students say cutting $790 million in research grants is not the solution.
Across the board, the attack on academic institutions, particularly higher tier academic institutions, has been part of the plan. This is an easy way to scapegoat the situation and say, oh, well, because of this, we're taking away $790 million.
Students say cutting life-changing research in the name of Jewish students may lead to more hate.
My fear is that it's going to kind of spur more anti-Semitism here on campus.
Northwestern saw an increase in reports of anti-Semitism last year in the wake of the Israel-Hamas war, according to a report released by the university.
Schill, as angry as I was with him last year, I think he did a relatively good job with the protests. And I wouldn't say that the cuts specifically are making me feel more protected or more safe.
Though Gefsky says NU has already made progress protecting Jewish students, he says funding cuts could be effective at pushing other universities to combat anti-Semitism.
These protests were obviously pretty horrible last year, and whatever, if this is, I don't know, but if this is the right step to combat anti-Semitism, then I'm supportive of it.
In an update 2 weeks ago, Northwestern cited an 88% decrease in reports of anti-Semitism between November 2023 and 2024.
The concerns of anti-Semitism here on campus are definitely real and were definitely real, especially last year. But I think that we've made significant progress.
In Evanston, Zoe Singer, Northwestern News Network.
Thanks for your reporting, Zoe. We'll continue following the funding cuts and their impacts on the Northwestern community in the coming weeks.
Multiple international students saw their visas revoked after a new order from the Trump administration caused uncertainty about student legal status. NNN's Gabriella Umber-Medalliou is here to break down the situation and its implications.
Thanks, Victoria. Northwestern supports a community of 9,300 international students currently enrolled. University students who are not American citizens are granted student visas, allowing them to come and study in the U.S. with temporary protected status. Northwestern found out about the termination of student visas during a recent review of SEVIS, a federal system used to track international university student status. In an email to NNN, a university spokesperson said, quote, "During recent checks of that database, we learned that the Department of Homeland Security terminated the SEVIS status of a limited number of current students and former students with continuing ties to our institution. The reasons for canceling these student visas is unclear to Northwestern. Revoking student visas has Northwestern students worried. If theirs is revoked, their temporary status is stripped, and they are at risk of being detained by ICE and deported. The Trump administration says student deportations come after national security threats following pro-Palestinian demonstrations. Last spring, the administration characterized them as having ties to terrorism. Student activists at other universities like Columbia and Tufts have been detained by ICE, and students at other universities were deported following undisclosed terminations to their visas. As of right now, no student activists have been detained at Northwestern, and students who have had their visa revoked remain unidentified. According to an NU spokesperson, Northwestern has reached out to those affected and is providing guidance.
Thank you for breaking that down, Gabriella. Now, you have been reporting on another Trump administration action.
Yes, President Trump has set, removed, then set tariffs again on U.S. imports. I looked into what this means for Evanstonians and students alike.
On April 2nd, President Donald Trump imposed a minimum of 10% tariffs on all U.S. imports and steeper tariffs on other countries. Trump calls this day, quote, Liberation Day. In retaliation, China imposed heavy tariffs on the U.S., starting a heated escalation with the U.S. imposing a 145% tariff on China. Students like Rebecca Rodriguez, an economics major at Northwestern, worry Trump's tariffs won't just affect other countries, but pose a threat to American consumers.
The impact is going to be for me and like the stuff I'm purchasing.
The S&P 500, a stock market index tracking the leading 500 U.S. companies, lost $5.83 trillion in market value in the past week. The federal government argues consumers need to feel the weight of tariffs in the short term to, quote, strengthen the international and economic position of the United States and protect American workers. Northwestern's Professor Gordon disagrees.
Why is there so much emphasis on manufacturing? There are only 9 million jobs in manufacturing in a country where total employment is 160 million.
For students who buy groceries, the price of coffee, fruit, alcohol, cheese, and eggs, among other things, are projected to rise. However, some are willing to wait these price hikes out, believing Trump's tariff policy will protect and ultimately increase American jobs. A misconception, according to Gordon.
And as people cut spending, more and more jobs will be lost and we'll go into a standard recession.
As tariffs continue to change and fluctuate this week, some students share similar sentiments.
These tariffs are really counterproductive.
This is Gabriela Amberher-Medallo, Northwestern News Network.
Thanks, Gabriella. Tariff policy is continuing to shift with new pauses going into place. Still, President Trump says, quote, no one is getting off the hook. We'll continue to follow the story as it evolves.
The U.S. House Education and Workforce Committee dropped their investigation into Pritzker Law School's legal clinics after Northwestern professors sued the committee. Professors Sheila Betty and Lynn Cohn filed the lawsuit to stop NU from handing over budgets, personnel files, and donor lists to the federal government. They allege the investigation violated their First Amendment rights and rights of their clients. In a statement sent to NNN by Cohn's attorney, Professor Cohn said, quote, clinical educators won't back down. We will keep doing what we do best, centering students, defending our clients, and standing firm in defense of justice and the rule of law. The initial investigation looked into how taxpayer dollars were being spent on, quote, progressive left political advocacy.
Next, could the 201 become the 20 done? We've got details on how transportation in Evanston might change due to funding cuts.
My relationship with Giannis is unique. We're from the same country, we're from the same city. Being a Northwestern alum, I think, has tremendous advantages in the sports industry. To me, that community, it's been with me for 20 plus years.
Ready, set, piano!
Evanston Mayor Daniel Biss is planning to appoint a new lead for the city's land commission, and many Evanston residents are not happy. Biss plans to replace former Commissioner George Halleck with affordable housing expert Kat Vielma after Halleck's first term expired in March. Evanston residents shared their frustration with Biss's proposed decision at last night's city council meeting. They say he's pushing his affordable housing and zoning agenda onto residents without considering their input. A petition asking Biss to reconsider has garnered over 500 signatures. Resident Jenny Washburn started the petition.
George Halleck was very much our voice, and as you heard someone say tonight, he spoke and asked the questions that Evanston residents would ask.
Biss is expected to make the announcement at the next city council meeting.
On campus, a dorm theft occurred late Friday night, according to student reports. 3 individuals gained access to 1856 Orrington, a South Campus dorm building. Students say the intruders knocked on doors and attempted to enter personal rooms. In an email to NNN, a university spokesperson confirmed campus police received a report of theft at 1856 Orrington and said an investigation is ongoing. No official university communication was released to students at the time of the incident. Instead, students were notified through GroupMe messages from resident assistants. They advised students to secure their doors and report suspicious activity. It is still unclear how the individuals entered the buildings or whether they were removed by campus security.
Evanston and surrounding cities may lose most of their public transportation routes. That's because of a potential $770 million budget cut. NNN's Katarzyna Nguyen talked to NU students and Evanston residents about their thoughts.
Every Thursday morning, Alexandra Haney is up bright and early, waiting for the CTA 201 bus to take her to Lincolnwood Elementary School. Haney is part of the Books and Breakfast program, connecting student tutors with local schools around Evanston.
It's nice to just hang out with some kids. I feel like they're so creative and fun.
But soon, these tutors may have to figure out a new way to get to their schools. In a press release on March 21st, Regional Transportation Authority, which manages the Chicago area's transit system, stated that the regional budget shortfall would require up to a 40% cut in service. In Evanston, all but one CTA bus route, evening and weekend pace bus service, and even the Purple Line could be suspended.
It would definitely be like a tough hurdle to overcome.
And for others, the Purple Line's closure could affect their ability to get to work in downtown Chicago.
Ian Branson says if the Purple Line were cut, the cheapest route would be to Uber to Howard Station and take the Red Line to downtown.
I get off work very late at night, around midnight, and I would much prefer to just stay on the train and come directly here. It feels a lot safer that way.
For Haney, access to public transit is essential for not only Books and Breakfast, but also her college experience.
It's been really life-changing here, just being able to get places that I want to go so easily.
Katarzyna Nguyen, Northwestern News Network.
Thanks for your reporting, Katarzyna. State Representative Robin Gable and State Senator Laura Fine will host a transit listening session at Morton City Hall to hear from community members.
For new student organizations trying to get off the ground, the New Student Organization Fund is a great asset, but the process is difficult. NNN's Lulia Tekla has more.
For many student groups just starting out, one of the biggest challenges is funding. John Sisko on ASG's Student Activities Finance Committee says groups can use the New Student Organization Fund as an initial investment.
Well, my hope is that it makes it easier for clubs to get off the ground.
Previously, student groups formed in the last 2 years could receive up to $5,000 per quarter through Student Senate allocations, but rising demand changed the game.
There's a sort of proving process almost.
Sisko, a former ASG senator himself, says he understands the frustration.
You as a student organization representative, may want to stick around for the entire duration of the Senate process, which begins typically somewhere around 7 p.m. and is known to last to midnight, if not longer.
This year, double the amount of money, $10,000, is shared among qualifying groups. But more cash means more competition and longer hours for group representatives pleading their case.
But unfortunately, with the way the system is organized currently, there's no fix for that.
Many student groups, even if they receive funding, don't usually get the amount they request. Sisko says this leaves some groups unhappy.
No guarantee that it will turn out the way you would like to. So I would be unsurprised if student groups in the past had expressed discontentment.
Lulia Tekla, Northwestern News Network.
The next round of new organization funding will be debated in the upcoming Senate meetings.
We have a severe weather threat on the way. I have forecasts after the break.
Trying to work my way out of the prison system was the most difficult challenge of my life. It only became tangible once I became a Northwestern student.
One, two, three, four.
My relationship with Giannis is unique. We're from the same country, we're from the same city. Being a Northwestern alum, I think, has tremendous advantages in the sports industry. To me, that community, it's been with me for 20 plus years.
Welcome back. Now, Victoria, I've been loving the warm and sunny weather recently.
Me too, Allison. Spring quarter is finally feeling like spring.
For sure. Well, let's hear if this warmer weather is here to stay. Emmanuel, what are we looking at?
You may have noticed the windy conditions earlier in the day. That's because we were between two systems. We had a high pressure system to the southwest of us and a low pressure system to the northeast. Now, as that southwest high pressure system moves eastward, those breezy conditions will stick with us. Currently, it is 49 degrees with the sun going down with a few lingering clouds. For the rest of the night, we're going to go from the upper 40s into the lower 40s into tomorrow morning. Onto our temperatures, it is around the same around our region, a little bit cooler around the lake, 49 degrees in Evanston, 53 in Skokie, 54 at O'Hare Airport, 52 in downtown Chicago, and 54 at Midway Airport. Onto our 5-day forecast. Starting on Wednesday, we're going to have sunny skies with temperatures sitting at 46 degrees. And then on Thursday, our temperatures will increase with a temperature of 61 degrees. Along with that, we're going to have a storm system pushing through, bringing those clouds in the breezy conditions of 32 miles per hour. Along with that, those storm system will bring scattered showers in the evening. Now on Friday, we're going to have our first 70-degree temperature value in a while, sitting with 73 degrees and 80 degrees away from the lakefront. We do have a slight risk of severe weather, a 2 out of 5. We have morning showers, then the evening showers is where our main threat will be at. We could expect some tornadic activity, some damaging winds, and a potential for hail. Then on Saturday, we're gonna have temperatures sitting at 50 degrees with mainly cloudy skies. Then on Sunday, those overcast skies stay with us with a temperature at 53 degrees. Stay weather aware on Friday.
Thanks, Emmanuel. Hopefully those April showers will bring May flowers.
Northwestern's Spanish and Portuguese clubs hosted an interactive workshop last Friday that has students bonding over bomba. NNN's Philip Lamb has more on how participants are embracing the rhythm and music rooted in Afro-Puerto Rican culture.
What started as a West Side Chicago passion has since spread to Evanstonians, who are embracing bomba as a form of spiritual activation under vocalist and performer Ivelis Diaz.
I've been studying this since the age of 5, so I've been doing this my whole life.
Armed with maracas and drumsticks, workshop attendees are learning the rhythm and history defining this Afro-Puerto Rican musical genre.
It was just really nice to get myself out there and kind of get out my comfort zone.
It was Diaz's engaging and outgoing attitude that initially caught Professor Jacob Brown's attention last summer.
I went to one of Ivelis's workshops and it was fantastic.
Participants were on their feet, trying to master the cadence together. It took a few tries, but in the end, success.
We allow folks that are learning to be part of the activation and hands-on experience, and it's like cooking. We were all chefs in there.
In other moments, seated members reflecting on deep-seated issues.
People who are marginalized because of their identities, because of race, because of gender, because of sexuality, her message is to uplift.
To Diaz, music is a necessity to people's physical, social, and mental well-being.
It's a medicine. It moves your emotions. It activates things. It makes you, it gets you thinking.
Philip Lamb, Northwestern News Network.
Thanks for your reporting, Philip.
One Book, One Northwestern dove deeper into the Night Watchman book, hosting a talk about the Potawatomi land transfer, an effort to reclaim ancestral lands. NNN's Anna Kasani was at the talk.
One Book, One Northwestern dove deeper into the Night Watchman with the Potawatomi land transfer talk on Wednesday.
Nearly 200 years after the Native Americans were forced out of Illinois, the Prairie Band Potawatomi Nation has become the first federally recognized tribal nation in the state.
Prairie Band Potawatomi Nation Tribal Council member Raphael Wawasuk shared his history and his recent efforts to rehabilitate and reclaim ancestral lands.
We do have other Native students that attend Northwestern, and so I come in support of those students, and I also come when I'm afforded opportunities to help educate.
At the end of his presentation, One Book faculty co-chairs facilitated a Q&A.
The nuance of history, remarkable nature of what you are doing.
This year's One Book left a lasting impression on many of the students who read it.
I think it offers a lot of important messages and lessons from history about what happens when tribes are terminated and how does that affect generations beyond that moment.
Indigenous legacies and futures will continue to be honored on Thursday and Friday at the 7th Annual Research Symposium from the Center of Native American and Indigenous Research. Anna Kasani, Northwestern News Network.
Thank you, Annika. One Book, One Northwestern has several more events planned throughout the month. For more information, head to northwestern.edu/onebook.
Funky fresh moves, Fusion Dance Company tears up the stage after the break.
I'm Kelly McEvers, founding host of the NPR podcast Embedded.
I'm James Edwards, host of the Unresolved podcast from Frontline.
I'm Antonia Cereijido, former senior producer of Anything for Selena podcast and current executive producer at Elias Studios.
My narrative, since I've been locked up and kind of made my transition, has been like redemption, accountability.
When I come into the classroom environment, every individual that sits amongst me takes education seriously.
My relationship with Giannis is unique. We're from the same country, we're from the same city. Being a Northwestern alum, I think, has tremendous advantages in the sports industry. To me, that community, it's been with me for 20 plus years.
Energy and excitement radiated from the crowd and stage at Fusion Dance Company's annual spring show. NNN's Anna Kasani has the highlights.
Fusion Finally 21 celebrated 21 years since Fusion's start in 2003. The show featured hip-hop styles with some contemporary movement.
Like in Fusion, we all have different dance backgrounds, and we're all able to look and see, oh, this person was trained this way, this person has such a unique style of movement, and then you're like, I want to dance like that.
This year, 46 Fusion dancers performed in 3 shows with guest student groups in each performance.
The show is just a really fun time. It's kind of like a party of some sorts preparing, and it is just really doing what you love with the people you love.
The show contained freestyle dances, grade specific performances, and a full group closing.
Of course, me and Ivan choreographed Small Blow Up, which is a piece that we did, which we enjoyed a lot, and I had a lot of fun.
Friends and family gathered to celebrate months of hard work in the Ryan Family Auditorium. Anna Kasani, Northwestern News Network.
Thanks, Annika. That's all the time we have for tonight on the Northwestern News Report. I'm Victoria Ryan.
And I'm Allison Miller. Have a good evening.